This is a Suzuki Jimny, and I'm actually thinking about buying one. In fact, I'm thinking about buying this very car. So in this video, I'm going to tell you why I want one of these things, which different versions I'm looking at, and the kind of modifications I plan to do with it. Then at the end, I'm going to get you to vote as to whether or not I should buy one. The Suzuki Jimny is a lightweight little off-roader, and Suzuki started making them back in 1970. The first version looked like a rip-off of the Willys Jeep. I really like the look of the second generation version. I think it was called the Suzuki Santana in my country. Very cool, very boxy. I really wanted one back in the 80s. The third generation version was a bit of a jelly mold, didn't like the look of that, but this fourth generation is the best looking yet. Its boxy design is just like a miniature G-Wagon. On the inside, it is pretty plain, just black plastic everywhere. Yeah, it's all a bit scratchy and simple. But at least it does have a proper passenger grab handle. Look at that! Like a proper off-roader. Don't know why I'm doing this, just trying to illustrate the point. But then this little Jimny is a proper off-roader. So it's got a body-on-frame chassis, you've got rigid axles at the front and at the back, you've got a low-range four-wheel drive gearbox. It's got the lot. It's even got old-fashioned hydraulic power steering, none of your electric power steering of modern cars. It's also very small. Just look how dinky and cute it is. And that's great when you're off-roading because you can go through narrow gaps in hedges without worrying about scratching your bodywork or pulling bits of trim off. And of course, it's dead light. It weighs just 1.1 tons, so it can kind of like tiptoe over muddy ruts, a bit like a cloven-hooved animal. I mean, look how light it is. Look at this. I could almost tip it over. So funny. Now, I've actually put this little thing up against a Mercedes-AMG G63 and a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon off-road through various challenges, and it did really, really well. I've even raced it along an off-road course against a G63, and it was able to keep up. Main reason is it's just so small and light that you could just hoon it around a lot quicker than you could the Mercedes. Also, I wasn't worried about braking it so much because it's just so cheap. So let's talk about the price then. Now the Jimny starts from just over £15,000, but that's for the very basic SZ4 version. That gets stuff like steel wheels, which are actually good for off-roading because you don't worry about damaging them. But then you get things like halogen headlamps and a really crappy small infotainment system. The range-topping SZ5, however, does have a proper infotainment system. And look, it's got glorious Android Auto, loving that. That's essential if you ask me, absolutely essential. It also gets digital climate control. It's important when you're driving to the Kalahari and need cooling down to a very specific temperature. And there's heated seats, look, down here, which is great if you're off-roading in the Arctic. You also get LED headlights, which may be a little bit expensive to replace if you break them while you're off-roading, but at least they do illuminate the road properly when you're on it. You also get 15-inch alloy wheels. Now, you might damage these against a rock when you're off-roading, but at least they look a bit more straight when you're on-road, and obviously style is quite important with this car, I think. And anyway, if you want to go off-roading, you can just get yourself a pair of cheap Steelies and then you don't need to worry about it. Not many SUVs are three-door these days, though to be fair, you wouldn't be able to fit another door in here, it's just so small. And being just a three-door does, of course, have its downsides. You see, this little Jimny isn't great if you need to carry rear passengers because obviously they have to slide the front seat forward to get into the back, and let me just put this into the right position. Then when you pull this, oh bugger, no one's going to sit like that. You get into a position someone might actually want to sit in. There we go. And then back here, well, there's lots of headroom. Knee room is tight and you do sit quite low. Plus, look, you've only got one and two seat belts here in the rear. It's a strict two-seater here in the back. Plus, there's the fact that you've got the option of either having rear passengers or some luggage. You can't have both. You see, the boot, with the seats up, has a capacity of a rather disappointing 85 litres. So you can just about squeeze one little bag of shopping in there. Really, if you need to carry things, you're going to have to fold down these rear seats, look. And then you have a normal size boot, but a two-seater vehicle. Not ideal. There is some storage under here for simple little things. But yeah, it's not the most practical car, is it? Then there's the engine, which is slow. It's a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine with 101 horsepower and 130 newton meters of torque. So 0 to 60, that's 12 seconds. Top speed, it's only 87 miles an hour. Another issue is the gearbox. So it's got a nice mechanical feel to it, but you've only got 5 gears, which means when you're cruising at 70 miles an hour on the motorway, the engine's doing 4,000 RPMs, so it's just like, and you really can hear it because there's Not much sound insulation in this car. You get a lot of wind noise, you get a lot of tyre noise. It's not relaxing as travelling, especially when you go past a lorry, because it's so light and you've got slab sides, you do get blown about quite a bit and it's all just a little bit scary. Another thing that's a bit of a pain is the fact that the steering is rather slow. So if you need to do a U-turn, you have to do lots of wheel twirling. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Can you make it? At least it's not the biggest car, so turning circle is all right. Then there's the fact that it's actually designed to be good off-road, which means that it's compromised on-road. So first of all, that ladder frame chassis and the fact you've got rigid axles means that you feel absolutely every single bump. And then you've got soft springs in the suspension. Well, that's great for bombing over ruts when you're overlanding. It's not so great when you're on road and you approach a corner, because this thing has all the composure, oh dear, of a drunken hippo. Oh, yeah, gets on your nerves after a while. Despite all these issues though, I still love this car. I mean, I love it. It's lovely. It's just got so much character. It's cute, isn't it? And you see, I've got access to other cars. So I've got my Porsche 996, I've got my Mazda MX-5, and if I really need it, my Fiat 126. Plus I've got access of all the cars that I review for CarWow. So I don't need to rely on this Jimny as a daily driver, because I wouldn't want to rely on it as a daily driver. It's just too compromised. Now we come to the part of the video I want your help with. So I've got the opportunity to buy this very car you see here. It's actually the Jimny that Suzuki lent to CarWow and we've been running as a long-termer, so I'm quite used to this car. I spent some time with it. You've probably seen the videos yourself actually. Now, the only issue I have is it's not brand new, so it's actually a late 2018 car. It's done almost 15,000 miles, yet they still want £17,200 for it. And that seems like quite a lot, really. However, these things are in short supply. There's a lot of demand, and as a result, they haven't lost much money in terms of depreciation, hence the high cost. It's just the way it is. Now, one of the things that's put me off from buying this particular car is that when I look underneath it, I can see just a little bit of rust here and there. Now, it's probably just surface rust, so not a big problem. However, if I was to buy one of these new, I would add some extra underseal and put Waxall inside the chassis as well, just to stop it from rusting from the inside out. You know, I'm going to be using this car for off-roading, so I want to give it as much protection as possible. Then there's the colour. This is actually the most popular paint scheme, the metallic blue with the contrasting black roof, but it's not my favourite. Finally, there's the fact that because this car isn't new, it's used at some of its warranty. It's probably only got about 1.5 years of its 3 years warranty left, which means I don't have so much peace of mind. And it's really annoying that when you consider that this car will cost me only £2,000 less than a brand new one. The problem with brand new ones though is that they're quite hard to come by, so they're only brought into the UK in limited numbers. There's a huge waiting list for them, and Suzuki are going to stop importing them into the UK after 2020 because of the car's emissions. So they're pretty hard to come by. Also, dealers are charging a premium for new ones of these. You know, they cost about £23,000. However, I should be able to get one for under 20 grand. I should be able to pay the normal recommended retail price for it, which is acceptable. I guess 20 grand is still quite a lot for one of these, isn't it? Also, I'll be able to order it with some accessories, so I could get a different grille which says Suzuki on it, which I think looks really cool, though that does cost an extra £200. You can also get some diff protector covers, which are quite handy if you're going off-roading, but they're not cheap. They're £300 for one at the back and £300 for one at the front, even though they're just simple pieces of metal. Then there's a silver trim for the sills, which does look good, but it costs £300, and you can get one for the front bumper as well, which yet again costs another £300. Is it worth it? Should I have any of these fitted? Let me know in the comments box below. Now, if I do choose to buy a new car, then I get to pick the colour. And there's 5 other choices apart from this blue. So which one do you think I should go for? Click on the pop-out banner up there to vote. Should it be the white one, the yellow one, the silver one, the black one, or the ivory one? I'm looking forward to seeing what you chose. If I do buy a Jimny, whether it's this one or a brand new one, I do want to do a few mods to it, make it a bit more interesting. The first of which is a lift. So I'd like to lift it by about 5 centimetres because it would just make it look cooler. It'd also make it better for off-roading as well. You know, that much extra ground clearance is always welcome, isn't it? Now, you can get kits for about £1,000 to £1,500, and you get springs, dampers and control arms. I've been checking them out, seem quite reasonable, and I think 5 centimetres is quite a good compromise between improved off-road performance, cool looks without actually ruining the driving dynamics on road. I'd also fit it with some knobbly tyres as well because these are a little bit boring. Another thing I'd love to do is add some more performance to this engine. Now I wouldn't want to turbocharge it because the last thing you want when you're off-roading is sudden turbo boost coming in, or big spike in torque, and then you just lose traction. It's not ideal, but supercharging could definitely work and keep a linear power delivery. I could get a Roadtrex supercharger for this, which would probably increase the horsepower to around 200, which would be amazing. It means I'll be able to drag race this thing in some videos, which I'm sure you'd like to see, and I'd like to do. Maybe I should do that. I should definitely supercharge it, shouldn't I? The final mod I'd like to do is a hydraulically locking rear differential. Now it means that when I have this car into two-wheel drive mode, because it's then rear-wheel drive, I'll be able to do some drifting and donuts in it, which would be a right laugh, especially if you've got a supercharger fitted to it. It also means that when I go off-roading, it'd be slightly better as well, because if I get stuck on an obstacle, I could lock that rear diff for some extra traction. In fact, that's one thing this car is missing, lockable diffs. It tries to do it with its electronics and its brakes to stop the wheels spinning up, but it's just not as good as a proper mechanical system. If I do buy one of these cars and do the mods, I will of course be filming that process for you to watch. And now we come to the final part of the video, the bit where you get to help me decide what to do. So click on the pop-out banner up there to cast your vote. Should I buy this very car here and just leave it standard? Or buy this very car and do those modifications I told you about? Or should I buy a brand new car and leave it completely standard, or buy a brand new car and do all the mods? Or the one last option, don't buy a Jimny at all and save my money for another car. Let me know what you think I should do. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. I'd really appreciate it. And let me know of other videos you'd like me to do in the comments below. If you'd like to watch some more videos, then just click on the video windows about the place. Now, if you're thinking, Matt, shouldn't you be on lockdown? How can you be driving a car? Well, don't worry. I've been very clever. I'm combining it with going shopping. So it's all fine.